When I transferred to the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign, I just wanted a clean slate. A new campus, new people, new everything. I'd spent 2 years at a community college in Chicago. Now, I was finally living away from home, in a dorm. They gave me a room in Morgan Hall, one of the oldest buildings on campus. It's on Gregory Drive, close to everything. But honestly, it felt like it hadn't been updated since the 70s. My room was at the very end of the 5th floor. Room 582. When I first stepped in, I felt it right away. It was colder than the hallway. The air had a metallic smell, like rust or old pennies. The room was small, but it was mine. That night, after unpacking, I went to bed early, but something woke me up around 3:17 a.m. At first, I thought it was a dream. Then I heard it. 3 soft knocks, not at the door, at the wall, right behind my bed. I sat up and listened. Nothing. I got up and checked the hallway. It was empty. Dead quiet. I told myself it was the pipes, or maybe the guy next door had knocked something over. But the next day, I found out. There was no room behind mine, just a sealed-off utility space, according to the RA. I didn't say anything else. That night, it happened again. Same time. Same 3 knocks. But this time, there was a voice. Software, right behind me. Don't turn around. I froze. I didn't move for a full minute. Then I turned on the desk lamp. Of course, nothing was there. The next morning, I went to the library. I don't even know why. I just felt like I needed to know more. In the archives, I found a yearbook from 1964. Morgan Hall looked different back then. There were 13 rooms on my floor. My room was listed as room 583. But now, it's labeled 582. Something didn't add up. Later, I checked the university's housing map online. Only 12 rooms were shown. 1 was missing. I couldn't stop thinking about it. That night, I left all the lights on. I even played music softly to stay calm. At exactly 3:17, the lights flickered. Then, blackout. Silence. Then, the knocking. But louder, and the voice returned, more forceful this time. Don't turn around. I ran. I didn't even grab my phone. I crashed on a friend's couch that night. The next day, I went to talk to the building supervisor. She didn't act surprised. She just stared at me and said, "You're not the first." She told me about a student named Michael Yates who lived in my room in 1981. Back then, it was called room 583. He vanished one night. No body, no explanation. Only one thing left behind. Words scratched into the wall behind his bed. Don't turn around. They sealed off the adjacent room after that and renumbered everything. That night, I packed. I was already approved to move to a different dorm. But before I left, I wanted to say goodbye to the room. I don't know why. I stepped inside. It felt colder than ever. I stood there in silence. Then, from the closet this time, I opened it slowly. Empty. When I closed it, 3 knocks again. This time, right behind me. I didn't turn around. I just walked out and never went back. A few weeks later, I heard someone else moved in. They only stayed 3 nights. Left in the middle of the night, screaming something about a voice in the mirror. Now, room 582 is empty again. But some nights, if you're on the 5th floor of Morgan Hall around 3:17 a.m., you might still hear it. 3 knocks, and a voice just behind your shoulder. Don't turn around. When I got accepted to Ohio State University, I couldn't have been happier. It felt like my whole life was finally moving forward. They placed me in Drackett Tower, a tall dorm building on North Campus. It wasn't the newest dorm, but it was close to the engineering buildings, so I didn't care. I moved in during the first week of August. It was brutally hot. The building's air conditioning struggled to keep up. I lived on the 10th floor, room 1023. At first, everything was fine. Classes started. I made a few friends, and I got used to the endless maze of hallways. But then, weird things started happening. It always centered around the elevators. Dracut had 4 old elevators in the middle of the building. They were slow, creaky, and sometimes the lights would flicker inside them. One night, around 2 a.m., I got into the elevator alone after a late study session. I pressed the button for the 10th floor. The doors closed. But instead of going up, the elevator dropped down to the basement. I didn't even know students could access the basement. When the doors opened, it was pitch black. I didn't step out. The lights in the elevator flickered once, and in that split second, I swear I saw someone standing at the edge of the basement hallway, just standing there, facing the elevator. Before I could react, the doors closed on their own. The elevator jolted and started rising. When I got back to my floor, I ran straight to my room and locked the door. The next day, I told my RA what happened. He just shrugged and said, "Yeah, Dracut's elevators have a reputation. Old wiring or whatever." I tried to brush it off. But a week later, it happened again. This time, it was worse. It was after midnight. I was coming back from the library. When I got into the elevator, I noticed the button for the basement was already lit up. I didn't touch it. The doors closed, and again, the elevator went down. Way down. When the doors slid open, there was that same suffocating darkness. But this time, the elevator didn't wait. Something stepped inside. I didn't see a face, just the shape of a person. Tall, thin, head tilted slightly to the side. They stood facing the corner of the elevator, not looking at me. The doors closed. The elevator started rising. I stood frozen, gripping my backpack, not even breathing. The person didn't move. We passed the 2nd floor, 3rd, 4th. Then the elevator stopped at the 7th floor. The doors opened. No one was waiting outside. Suddenly, the figure stepped out into the hallway without looking back. They walked straight into the darkness. The doors closed again. I rode the rest of the way up in absolute terror. When I reached the 10th floor, I sprinted to my room and didn't leave again that night. Later, I tried to rationalize it. Maybe it was a maintenance worker? Maybe another student messing around? But something deep inside me knew it wasn't normal. I started using the stairs after that, even if it meant climbing 10 floors. A few days later, my roommate, Tyler, came back from a party. He looked pale. He said he took the elevator up. And when he got out on our floor, he heard someone whispering his name from inside the elevator. He turned around and saw no one. We decided to ask around. Some of the seniors told us a story. Years ago, no one was sure exactly when, a student died in the basement. Apparently, he got stuck between the elevator and the basement floor when it malfunctioned. They said he was trapped for hours before anyone found him. By the time they pulled him out, it was too late. Since then, the elevators sometimes pick up passengers who aren't really there. People say you're not supposed to ride alone late at night, especially not around 2 or 3 a.m. And if the basement button lights up by itself, you're not supposed to stay inside. You're supposed to get out. Immediately. After hearing that, I was done. I moved into a different dorm 2nd semester. I never set foot inside Dracut Tower again. But sometimes, late at night, I wonder if someone else right now is riding that same elevator, if they feel the lights flicker, the cold air brushing the back of their neck, and hear the soft creak of a figure stepping inside. Maybe they'll be smart enough to get out, or maybe they'll end up stuck, riding with something that never really left the basement. Some rooms feel empty, even when you're inside. Mine didn't. From the moment I moved into room 214 at East Quad, it felt like someone, or something, was already there. I had just moved into the University of Michigan a few days earlier, excited to start my first year. They placed me in East Quad, one of the older dormitories right in the center of campus. The building had a long history, full of renovations and rumors. I wasn't thinking about any of that, at least not at first. Technically, I was supposed to have a roommate. His name was listed as Nathan Foster, but when I moved in, Nathan was nowhere to be found. The front desk clerk told me there was a paperwork issue, nothing to worry about. Nathan would arrive soon, whatever that meant. For the first couple of days, I didn't mind having the room to myself. It was nice to have the extra space, but it didn't stay peaceful for long. Small things started happening. I would leave my shoes by the door and find them neatly placed under the second bed. The chair at my desk would slowly turn away when I wasn't looking. And sometimes, in the early hours of the morning, I'd hear soft creaking sounds, like footsteps. Always coming from the side of the room where no one should have been sleeping. At first, I blamed stress. New school, new city, new life. Maybe my mind was just playing tricks on me. But then came the night I couldn't explain away. I had been working late at the library and stumbled back into the room around 2 a.m. As I pushed open the door, I froze. The second bed, the empty bed, was made. Tightly, neatly, like in a hotel. And sitting on the pillow was a duffel bag, old, faded, and zipped closed. I didn't recognize it. I checked the roster in the hallway again. Still just my name. Still no Nathan Foster. Back inside the room, I sat on my bed and stared at the duffel bag. It hadn't been there before. I was sure of it. That night, I barely slept. Every time I drifted off, I thought I heard someone shifting on the other bed, breathing, slow and heavy. When I woke up in the morning, the duffel bag was gone. But there was something else. Scratched into the wood of the desk, barely visible unless you were looking for it, were 3 words. I never left. I packed a bag and decided to stay with a friend for a few days. Before leaving, though, curiosity got the better of me. I went to the front desk and asked again about Nathan Foster. The woman at the desk hesitated, then tapped on her computer. Her face changed as she read whatever was on the screen. She looked up at me, her voice quiet. Nathan Foster was assigned to that room last year, she said. But he passed away before the semester started. Apparently, Nathan had taken his own life in his off-campus apartment just days before move-in. They had forgotten to update the housing records. I felt sick. Back at East Quad, I hurried to gather the rest of my things. The room felt colder than usual, heavy, like the air itself was thicker. As I knelt to pull my suitcase out from under my bed, something slid out along with it. A cracked student ID card. Nathan Foster's name was still legible. The photo showed a pale young man with tired eyes and a crooked smile. And in the upper corner of the card, faint but unmistakable, was a thumbprint, as if someone had been clutching it tightly. I turned to glance at the second bed. It was perfectly made, still waiting. I didn't stay long enough to find out what or who it was waiting for. Some rooms never truly empty out. Sometimes they hold on to the ones who never got to leave.